What's up guys, it's Johnny here from RetroPlay Games, and today we're going to be talking about the crime that has been sweeping the gaming and collectibles community. So with the price of trading cards and video games and everything on the rise, stores and even personal collectors are becoming prime targets for smash and grabs. There's been 3 burglaries just in our community alone, plus scams and everything like that are running rampant on the internet. So let's get some more information about that. I'll talk a little bit about my experience with this and some ways that you can keep your collection safe and make sure that you are not the next target. Let's do it. Alright, so for anyone that's not familiar with the Sarnia gaming community, we have had an absolutely massive crime wave sweep over the card stores, gaming stores in our city here. So as I mentioned before the intro there's been 3 break-ins thus far. The first one occurred in early December, and a good friend of mine downtown had his store broken into. There was lots of damage, his showcase was smashed, and a number of high-end Magic cards were taken from his business. So surveillance footage and everything, you can only do so much, and there wasn't really any leads in the case. And a couple weeks later, I had some individuals come into my store and brought in some very high-end old school Magic cards. And they're the kind of cards that, I frequent that business downtown, and I see these cards sitting in the showcase all the time. So I was immediately suspicious when I started looking through. I decided the best course of action was going to be to business as usual. Potentially these guys are dangerous. I noticed that they were looking around all over my store while they were in here as I was tallying through everything. So again, business as usual. I got as much information as I could. I made sure to capture the guys on our surveillance cameras. The one guy didn't want to put his mask on when he came into the store, which I'm not sure why you would do that when you're attempting to commit crimes. But it is what it is, and we did end up getting some good video footage of them. We handed all of that over, as well as the list of cards after the transaction was completed. So I did end up paying some cash for them. It's a small price to pay to try to help out another local business. We're all suffering, right? So we've had numerous lockdowns. My play space is currently closed down again, and I'm limited in capacity. I've got limited hours. COVID has really kneecapped stores like mine, stores like ours. And then you add a theft on top of that. We're talking, tens of thousands of dollars that have been taken from this business. So I immediately alerted my partner. I said, hey, we need to get the video footage from our security cameras. I think that it's possible that we're going to be targeted next based on the way that they were walking around the place. They looked at all of the perimeter of the building, looking for all the exits, all the doors. So we did end up taking some extra measures. We put up more security cameras. We ordered a steel pull gate to go over the plate glass in one of the doors, and then the other door has actually wired security glass on it. We have alarms and everything like that with motion sensors. So we figured, okay, I had been taking all my stuff home and figured that everything was probably going to be okay in that regard. We'd done the best we could, and the building was incredibly secure at that point. What I wasn't anticipating, and 3 days later, unfortunately, they did come back. They brought this with them and decided that they were going to cut their way through the security glass in the front door. So they proceeded into the business here and smashed my showcase, the nearest one that I have to the door. So we had just had a big promotion done by one of the local radio stations. So I put my best foot forward with that. I had some stuff in the case. I do take the majority of my inventory and securely store it. So it could have been a lot worse than it was, but they did end up smashing into the business. They smashed into my showcase, stole a bunch of graded cards from me, stole a bunch of my Yu-Gi-Oh! Sealed product, and then the World of Nintendo cabinet behind me was also smashed. Unfortunately, that's like the crown jewel of my collection around here, but it is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it at this point. I lost approximately $30,000 from the theft and from damages. So lots of high-end graded cards were taken. Like I said, some Yu-Gi-Oh! Sealed products, some other things, video games and consoles were taken from the case behind me. So quite a devastating event to have to experience. And then not too long after that, the third business got broken into, another friend of mine downtown. And he also had approximately $20,000 worth of inventory taken from his store. And they're you know, the criminals are very bold. Like, you think that you're gonna be okay. Like I said, we had the secure glass with all these extra security cameras and precautions and things in place, but the sheer value that's being kept in stores is just, it's starting to become well known that these are going to be easy targets. Unfortunately, raw cards are very difficult to prove that you own them. So the ultimate outcome from my encounter with law enforcement when I had taken in those cards that I suspected were from the other shop was exactly that. They said, you know, unfortunately, there's no way without a serial number or some sort of identifying marking on the card for us to determine that they did in fact come from that shop. I did end up returning the cards to that business, so I'm happy to say that we were, you know, we played a role in helping recover some of their cards. And then I'm gonna go ahead and play some footage for you of the burglary actually happening here. So it's it makes me sick to watch it, but I think it's, you know, you guys are gonna want to see that stuff. So let's roll that footage. Pretty brutal to watch, and you know, going back over it and looking at it again, it brings back that sickening, angry feeling that I had when it first occurred. So if any of you have had this happen to you, maybe your car has been broken into, or even other local business owners that have had a break-in or had products stolen, it makes you feel helpless. Like, there's absolutely nothing you can do. You saw in the footage, the guys were very careful to cover their faces. They were wearing gloves. So, you know, not really a whole lot to go on. Big thank you to the Sarnia Police Department here for helping us to, you know, take in all the evidence, very quick response time, and for helping us try to connect the dots on who it was that did this. So fast forward to today, and we've actually had a pretty incredible breakthrough in the case. So the events actually occurred yesterday, but it wasn't 100% public, so I wasn't sure if I would be able to talk about it. But it's been in the news now, so I feel like it's okay to release the information. We had sent out, right after the burglary on December 19th, a spreadsheet. My partner and I contacted the local card shops in the area. It's a very tight-knit community that we have here in southwestern Ontario, and sent out a spreadsheet of all the items that were missing. So thankfully, a lot of the stuff was consoles with serial numbers that I had recorded, the serial numbers of the graded cards that had been taken from me as well. We were able to get those out to everybody. And a couple of guys went to a store east of us here in London, Ontario, and decided to sell some of the stolen goods. So big shout out to LA Mood in London, Ontario. They were quick on their feet, were able to identify that some of the stuff was mine, and stalled the individuals for approximately 25 minutes while the London Police Department came to assess the situation. Arrested the individuals, and then during the search discovered a grenade in the guy's pocket, right? So, like, I'm not sure. I mean, criminal logic is just mind-boggling to begin with, but I'm not sure what would possess somebody to think that they're going to take some stolen items from a very well-known, high-profile robbery that was broadcast all over southwestern Ontario, and then maybe produce a grenade if they get caught and think that they're going to get away with it. I'm not sure what the logic was behind that. But again, big shout out and thank you to LA Mood and your staff. If you guys are in the London, Ontario area, please pay them a visit. Please show them some love. They are absolutely instrumental in helping to get some of the stuff back to all the local shops here in Sarnia. So forever grateful to you guys. Thank you so much for your efforts on that. And we finally have 2 suspects in the case that have been arrested, charged with theft over $5,000. The one guy with the grenade is getting extra weapons charges. It was an inert grenade, so thankfully there was no opportunity for him to hurt people. There was nobody hurt. It was, the incident and everything went down quietly. And thank you to the London Police Department as well as their explosives disposal unit for their quick response and for keeping all the citizens in that area safe. Thank you so much. So with that, I thought this episode would be a good opportunity to talk to you guys about my experience and some tips that I think would be useful for you to help keep yourselves and your collections safe. So like I said, this has been all the local businesses in town, numerous other businesses across Ontario, all over Canada, the United States. The big increase in card and collectible prices has made us a prime target. So you're going to want to do as much as you can, especially now more than ever, to help safeguard your stuff. So the first one seems fairly obvious, but you're going to want to equip your location, whether it's your home or your store, with good quality security cameras that are infrared equipped and also offer a cloud storage solution and preferably a battery backup in case the power goes out. So not only that, but you're going to want to test the cameras in all of the conditions in which they're going to be operating, if possible. Has everybody seen those police videos where a crime is committed and the footage or the stills that are sent to the police are super grainy? You can't determine any details, license plates or faces or any identifying information about the suspects. You're going to want to make sure that your cameras are capturing as high quality images as possible. And you're going to also want to make sure that you're covering all the angles. So any entrances or exits from your business or any points, potential points of entry that someone might try to break into, you want to make sure that those are going to be covered. Likewise, I also now have cameras that point outwards towards the customers that are selling me items. So I'm taking extra precautions to make sure I'm getting even more information from people than I was before. I am requiring, with COVID right now, masks are essentially a free getaway for anybody that's, up to no good in any location. So I do require customers to pull down their mask, look at my camera, capture their IDs, and there's cameras on every entrance, every exit, all the windows, motion sensors, and the cameras are very good quality. Like I said, they're always recording and pushing that footage to the cloud and do operate on batteries. So in the event of a power outage, or if somebody were to get really sneaky with it and try to cut the power to the building, the security cameras are going to continue to operate. So the next one also seems fairly obvious, but you're going to want to make sure that you have insurance for your collection. And a lot of you would be surprised to find out, for those of you that have home insurance or renter's insurance or anything like that, a lot of basic policies don't actually cover collectibles. So it's worth giving a call to your insurance provider and asking them specifically what kind of coverage you have. Collectibles can be tricky because the values fluctuate. They tend to be, there tends to be a lot of contention over, well, this wasn't the retail value of that when it was purchased new, and it can be a pain. So I recommend either reaching out to a company that specializes specifically in collectibles insurance policies, or you can reach out to your existing insurance provider, and you're likely going to have to either purchase a rider or pay additional fees to ensure that your collectibles are covered under your insurance policy. And that's also great. Theft aside, things do happen. So fires and floods and other unforeseen circumstances can arise. And you're going to want to make sure, again, that your stuff is insured so that you're able to recoup those losses if the worst does happen to you. Kind of hand in hand with that is going to be record keeping. So it's very important as you're going through and assessing your collection to take pictures of it I frequently take pictures of everything that comes into the store. I'm frequently taking pictures of my showcases and things like that to post on social media. So make sure if you have any identifying information like serial numbers or specific markings or anything like that, that those are well recorded. And keep those ideally on cloud storage. You don't want to have a hard drive or something like that fail in a device and lose all of that information. So make a spreadsheet, track the value of your collection, track all the serial numbers, again, any unique identifying information like that. Make sure it's up to date. Take pictures if you can, just as much information as you can about your collectibles, whether it's games or trading cards or coins or anything like that. Just make sure that you have accurate, up-to-date records, because in the event that something does happen, you're going to need to provide those records to your insurance company as well as to the authorities to make sure that they are able to help track down the items and to prove that they are yours. So as I mentioned, the cards that were brought to me that I suspected from the shop downtown, there's some ambiguity there because, you know, there's thousands of copies of cards printed, even though they're old and rare. Unfortunately, there was no way to tie them to those individuals and that break-in beyond a reasonable doubt. So as much as it seems like it was a slam dunk, you know, the guys came in, I know these belong to my friend downtown. The law is a lot different than just, you know, your gut feeling and your assumptions. It has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, and good documentation is going to be the key to making sure you're able to do that. Next is going to be to ensure that you have some sort of secure storage solution or some sort of regimen to ensure that your items are not left unattended where they can be easily accessible. So whether that's going to be a heavy-duty safe, you're going to want to make sure that you get a model that is rated for fire and flood, as well as something that's either incredibly heavy to the point where somebody would need heavy equipment to move it, or a model that you're able to bolt to the floor. And you're going to want to bolt that down into the concrete, either in your basement or in your store, the concrete pad. Make sure to check with your landlord if you're renting to make sure that that's okay. Or for incredibly high value items, my new policy is just going to be to not keep those items on site at all. They are viewable on the website, so anything over a certain dollar value in terms of my cards and expensive items is going to be kept off-site. I'm not going to elaborate too much on that, but a safe deposit box at the bank is probably going to be your best option. So you do have to pay a fee for that depending on the size of the safe deposit box, but that's going to be the ultimate in terms of ensuring that nobody gets access to your stuff if you don't want them to. And I recommend, I'm not sure if any of you out there have seen the Beta Black Lotus that was stolen from the shop in Southern California. For anybody that's interested in dealing with high-end collectibles like that, of course we all want to get our hands on those and to deal with those kind of high-end collectibles. Make sure if you're orchestrating a deal with somebody that you're meeting at a very public location. Police stations, I know a lot of places around the United States have areas specifically for people to conduct transactions like that are heavily monitored. Or again, you can keep those items in a safe deposit box and meet at the bank. So just make sure that not only are you keeping your collectibles safe, but you're keeping yourself safe as well. So with the launch of the new Xbox One and PS5 consoles, or rather the Series X and PS5 consoles, there was a rash of stories of people that were reselling those. You know, whatever your opinion is on people reselling consoles like that aside, people were actually being robbed and held up at gunpoint and stabbed and things like that. So again, you want to make sure that not only is your stuff safe, that you are safe as well. You can always replace or claim insurance on items that are lost or stolen, but you only get one chance at life, so make sure that you stay safe as well. And the last thing I want to talk about is going to be fraud. So fraud has also been an increasing problem in the collectibles and cards communities. And there are a couple of different things that you can do to protect yourself from fraud when you're buying and selling online. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that the person you're dealing with is reputable. Most Facebook groups or places like that you're buying and selling cards, eBay has a feedback system, are going to have some sort of a reference system and spreadsheet that you can check to ensure that the person you're dealing with has successfully conducted transactions before. You're always going to want to make sure if you're using PayPal that you're paying with goods and services and not friends and family. So goods and services is going to afford you the buyer protection. If you send friends and family, it's essentially just as good as handing somebody cash. And unfortunately, in the event that something goes wrong, you would have to rely on your bank or your credit card company to jump in and assist you there. And that just adds an extra layer of complication, potentially more fees, and it's just not a good experience having to deal with those places at all. So PayPal goods and services, never send e-transfer. For those of you that have that service available, never e-transfer somebody unless you're 100% sure you can trust them. And likewise, when you're selling on eBay or selling anything for that matter on any platform, to make sure that you're documenting the sale. So unfortunately, it's kind of almost gotten to a point where you have to take the item to the post office or to the shipper and then videotape yourself packing everything, addressing everything, and sending everything out all in one video. So there's numerous instances, unfortunately, with counterfeiters getting more experienced with printing more convincing fakes. A lot of cards that are floating around out there, they're not going to pass, like you're not going to be able to pass a Black Lotus to the kind of person that's going to buy something like that. It's going to be difficult, but it's a lot of the cheaper cards, anything that's $50 to $100, $150. Those kind of cards are also being targeted for counterfeiting now. And people that are newer, with the huge explosion of people getting into Pokemon or getting into Magic and back into Yu-Gi-Oh and things like that, a lot of people just don't have the experience or knowledge to determine whether or not their cards are genuine. And with that comes the possibility that you could sell a genuine card on one of these platforms and somebody can file a buyer protection claim with PayPal or with another payment platform and claim that they received one of these fake cards. Oftentimes people will have those cards on hand. They may ship you back a fake card. And unfortunately, the way that most of those cases end up is that the buyer is going to get their money back and eBay is going to, or whatever platform is going to take the money from you to refund that person. So again, that goes hand in hand with the documentation that I was talking about before. Make sure you're documenting all your transactions. Make sure you're providing as much proof as possible that your items are genuine. Tracking is always a necessity. People can claim that they haven't received items. You're able to track and determine that they have, and also to make sure that people, when you get their billing information and their shipping address, that those places match, and that you're not shipping to anywhere that's not indicated on their PayPal account or that they haven't specifically asked for. So you do have to do things by the book. I know that it seems like you're going to want to try to do as much as you can to build reputation if you're a newer seller or get some credibility in the community. But following the rules and doing things by the book is going to help make sure that things go smoother both for you and for your potential buyers or your potential sellers, and just make sure that everything goes smoothly for everybody involved in those transactions. So dealing with credible people is always great if you can, but the reality is that everybody's new once and has zero feedback on eBay or doesn't have any feedback in the groups. Middleman options are also offered through a lot of the collecting groups where moderators will allow you to mail your item to them, and the payer or buyer will pay that person instead of you directly and do sort of an escrow exchange. So explore those options if you're not feeling comfortable. If something seems like it's too good of a deal to be true, it probably is. I've actually had this happen to myself a couple of times where somebody lists a big lot of video games or cards and I'm at work or something like that and I've jumped on it. It hasn't happened too much, maybe a couple of times to me, but it just doesn't feel very good. Even though I know I'm going to get my money back, again, it's that sickening feeling of being helpless and being taken advantage of, and you want to try to avoid that. It does take like 2 weeks to get your money back through PayPal, so it can be a bit of an arduous process, especially if you don't just have the spare liquid capital on hand to cover those losses right away. So make sure you guys are doing your transactions by the book, deal with reputable people where possible, and stay safe when you are buying and selling online, or deal with secure locations when you're buying and selling in person. So that's it for this episode, guys. If anybody else has any other tips that I didn't cover on how to conduct transactions online safely or keep your collectibles safely stored away, please leave a comment below. Make sure to like and subscribe to the RetroPlay Games channel, share it with your friends, and ding that notification bell to make sure you get the latest updates on new content released from RetroPlay Games. One more time, an absolutely massive shout out to LA Mood in London, Ontario. please make sure to stop by and show them some love if you're in the area. And thank you so much, guys, for helping to make sure that the people behind this crime spree are being apprehended and that we're getting some of our stuff back. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody else in the collecting community and all the other card shops, people that have reached out with anonymous tips to us and things like that. It's so comforting to know that we belong to such a great community, and I really appreciate everybody's help with helping to bring this chapter to a close. Until next time, guys, stay safe and play on.